Boss's wife accused me of sleeping with him. I was gay the whole time. Those 5 words shattered what should have been the happiest moment of my engagement. My name is Madison Taylor, I'm 28 years old, and I work as a corporate contract attorney in Seattle. I was standing in my childhood bedroom at 2:47 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon, staring at an empty garment bag where my $15,000 custom Vera Wang wedding dress should have been hanging. My sister Emma was getting married in exactly 4 weeks. My wedding was scheduled for 5 weeks later, and she had just walked out of my room wearing my dress. "Emma, take it off. Right now," I said, my voice deadly calm despite my heart hammering against my ribs. She spun around in front of my full-length mirror, the hand-sewn pearl details catching the afternoon light. The dress I'd spent 8 months designing with the boutique's head designer. The dress I'd put a $5,000 deposit on 11 months ago. The dress that had been altered specifically for my measurements. "Oh, please, Maddie. You'll get over it," Emma laughed, running her hands down the silk bodice. "Besides, I'm older. I should have gotten married first anyway. And honestly, it does look better on me. I actually have curves to fill it out." I stood there completely still, watching my younger sister, younger despite her delusions, parade around in my wedding dress. Something shifted inside me in that moment. Not anger. Anger would have been messy, emotional, unproductive. This was something else entirely. Something cold and calculating that I recognized from my work dismantling fraudulent contracts. I simply nodded. "You're right, Em. It does look beautiful on you." Her eyebrows shot up. She'd clearly expected a fight. "Oh, well, good. I'm glad. You're being reasonable about this." "Of course. When did you say your wedding was again?" "March 15th. Yours is April 12th, right? Plenty of time to find something else." She was still admiring herself in the mirror, completely missing the dangerous quiet in my voice. I pulled out my phone and started typing notes. In my profession, documentation isn't just habit, it's survival. "And you took it from my apartment." "How exactly?" "I used the spare key Mom gave me. I needed to borrow your steamer anyway, and then I saw the dress just hanging there." She shrugged like grand theft was a minor inconvenience. "Look, Jason's family is flying in from Italy. His grandmother is 94, and this might be her last chance to see a wedding. The pictures need to be perfect." "I understand completely." I took 3 photos of her wearing my dress, making sure the timestamp was visible. "You should probably get going, though. Don't want to wrinkle it before your big day." Emma finally looked directly at me, suspicion flickering across her face. "You're being weird. Why aren't you freaking out?" "Because we're family, Em. Family helps each other out, right?" She relaxed, buying into exactly what I needed her to believe. "Exactly. I knew you'd understand. You've always been the reasonable one." After she left, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and opened my laptop. 10 years of corporate law had taught me that emotional reactions lose cases. Evidence wins them. And Emma had just handed me enough evidence to bury her. Let me back up and explain how we got here, because Emma's theft wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. It was the culmination of 28 years of her believing she could take whatever she wanted from me without consequences. Growing up, Emma was the golden child. 2 years younger, but somehow always ahead, more friends, better grades, prettier boyfriends. Our parents' philosophy was that I, as the older sister, should set a good example by letting Emma have whatever she wanted. My favorite toy? Emma needed it more. The car on my 16th birthday? Well, Emma had just gotten her license too, and it wasn't fair to make her wait. I learned early to work for everything I wanted and to protect what mattered to me. While Emma coasted through state school on our parents' dime, I earned a full scholarship to Northwestern Law. While she bounced between retail jobs and Instagram influencer dreams, I built a career at one of Seattle's top corporate firms, specializing in contract disputes and fraud cases. The dress incident might seem petty to outsiders, but it represented something much bigger. This wasn't just a $15,000 piece of clothing. It was the culmination of months of work with renowned designer Patricia Collins at Seattle's most exclusive bridal boutique. Patricia and I had collaborated on every detail: the French Alençon lace, the hand-sewn pearl and crystal beadwork, the cathedral-length train with matching veil. The dress had been featured in 2 bridal magazines as an example of modern couture craftsmanship. More importantly, it was mine. Legally, financially, and emotionally mine. I'd met my fiancé David 3 years earlier at a legal conference in Vancouver. He was a criminal defense attorney with his own practice, and we'd bonded over our shared workaholic tendencies and complete inability to small talk. Our relationship was built on mutual respect, intellectual compatibility, and the kind of deep trust that comes from both understanding the law inside and out. When he proposed on the observation deck of the Space Needle at sunset, I said yes before he'd finished his carefully rehearsed speech. Meanwhile, Emma had met Jason 6 months ago on a dating app. He was 23, she was 26, worked part-time at a local CrossFit gym, and had moved back in with his parents to save money for his fitness influencer career. Their whirlwind romance involved matching tattoos after 3 weeks and an engagement ring he'd bought at Costco. Emma's announcement that she was getting married exactly 1 month before my wedding wasn't coincidence. It was calculated. Just like her decision to book the same florist I'd reserved, the same photographer, the same caterer. When confronted about these obvious attempts at copying, Emma claimed it was simply easier to use vendors with proven results. But stealing my dress crossed a line that turned this from petty sibling rivalry into actionable legal territory. I spent that weekend building my case. First, I gathered documentation, the original purchase receipt, all alteration appointments, photos of fittings, email correspondence with Patricia about the custom design elements. The boutique's security cameras had captured Emma entering my building with a garment bag the previous Tuesday, the same day I'd worked late on the Morrison acquisition until nearly midnight. Next, I reviewed Washington state theft laws. Taking property valued over $750 with intent to permanently deprive the owner constituted second-degree theft, a Class C felony. But Emma had done more than steal. She'd stolen something irreplaceable on a timeline that prevented me from obtaining a substitute. In legal terms, this created grounds for both criminal charges and a civil case, including emotional distress damages. But I wasn't interested in criminal charges. I was interested in consequences that would actually impact Emma's life. On Monday morning, I called Patricia at the boutique. Patricia, it's Madison Taylor. I have an unusual situation regarding my dress. Of course, dear. How can I help? Someone has stolen my dress and plans to wear it at their wedding this Saturday. I need to understand our options for replacement or compensation. The silence stretched for nearly 10 seconds. I'm sorry, did you say stolen? Taken without permission with intent to wear it at their own wedding. Yes. Madison, that's unthinkable. Who would do such a thing? My sister. Another pause. Your dress was completely custom. The beadwork alone took our artisan 6 weeks. There's no way to replicate it in time for your April wedding. I understand. What would you estimate as the replacement cost, assuming money wasn't an object? To rush order something comparable, with the custom work, expedited shipping for materials, overtime for our seamstresses, you'd be looking at $35,000 to $40,000 minimum. And even then, it wouldn't be the same dress. Perfect. I thanked Patricia and hung up, then immediately called my insurance company. My renter's policy included coverage for theft of personal property, including scheduled items over $10,000. The adjuster would need a police report to process the claim. At 11:15 a.m., I walked into the Seattle Police Department's downtown precinct to file a theft report. The desk sergeant, a tired-looking woman in her 40s, barely glanced up when I explained the situation. Ma'am, are you sure you want to file a report against your sister over a dress? I'm sure. The dress is valued at $15,000. She took it, without permission, and refuses to return it. The sergeant's eyebrows went up. $15,000? For a dress? It's custom couture, hand-sewn beadwork, imported materials, 6 months of design work. She started typing. And she just took it? Used a key to enter my apartment while I was at work. I have building security footage of her leaving with a garment bag. 20 minutes later, I had case number 2024 Team 6789 and a detective assigned to investigate. Detective Rodriguez was a sharp-eyed woman about my age who specialized in theft and fraud cases. This is either the pettiest family dispute I've ever seen, she said, reviewing my documentation, or one of the most brazen thefts. Your sister really plans to wear your wedding dress to her own wedding? This Saturday at 4 p.m., Overlake Country Club. And you have all this documentation proving ownership? I slid a folder across her desk containing receipts, emails, photos, and security footage stills. Everything. Detective Rodriguez flipped through the papers, whistling softly. Ms. Taylor, I have to ask, what's your profession? Corporate attorney. Contract disputes and fraud cases. She laughed, not mockingly, but with genuine appreciation. Of course you are. This is the most thoroughly documented theft case I've seen in years. I believe in being prepared. Well, your preparation just made my job very easy. I'll contact your sister today. I left the police station and drove directly to my office, where I had a 2 p.m. client meeting about a $12 million breach of contract case. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days helping other people recover from betrayals and theft, and now I was applying those same skills to my personal life. That evening, Emma called me screaming, "Maddie, what the hell is wrong with you? A detective just called me about your stupid dress." "I'm sorry you're upset, Em, but you did steal my property." "I didn't steal anything. We're family. I was borrowing it." Borrowing implies permission and an intent to return. You took it without asking and planned to wear it at your own wedding. That's theft. You're insane. Mom is going to lose her mind when she finds out you called the cops on your own sister. Actually, Mom already knows. I called her this morning. That stopped Emma cold. What did you tell her? The truth. That you broke into my apartment and stole my wedding dress. The conversation that followed was illuminating. Emma cycled through denial. I was just trying it on. Minimization. It's just a dress. Blame shifting. You're being selfish. And finally, threats. I'll ruin your wedding. I let her rant for nearly 10 minutes, recording every word on an app I used for client interviews. When she finally wore herself out, I spoke calmly into the silence. "Emma, you have until Friday at 5 p.m. to return my dress in perfect condition. If you do that, I'll drop the criminal charges and we can pretend this never happened. And if I don't, then you'll find out exactly how good I am at my job." She hung up on me. Wednesday morning brought a call from my mother. "Madison Elizabeth, Taylor, what on earth is going on with you and your sister?" "Hi, Mom. Emma stole my wedding dress. I filed a police report. Pretty straightforward situation. She didn't steal it, honey. She borrowed it. There's a difference." "Not legally, there isn't." My mother sighed dramatically. "Can't you just buy another dress? Emma's wedding is this weekend. Her future in-laws are flying in from Italy." "Mom, the dress cost $15,000 and took 6 months to make. There is no just buying another dress." $15,000? Her voice went up an octave. "Madison, please tell me you didn't spend $15,000 on a dress." "I spent my money on something important to me. Emma stole it. I'm handling the situation appropriately." "But she's your sister." "Exactly. She should have acted like it." The conversation continued in circles for 20 minutes. Mom trying to guilt me into dropping the charges. Me calmly explaining that theft is theft regardless of family relationships. Finally, she played what she clearly thought was her trump card. "If you don't drop this nonsense, your father and I won't be attending your wedding." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "I'm sorry to hear that, Mom. David and I will miss having you there." The silence stretched for nearly 30 seconds. You're not going to change your mind?" "No. Madison, be reasonable. It's just a dress." "If it's just a dress, Emma can give it back." She hung up too. By Thursday, Emma had hired a lawyer. He called my office that afternoon, a mistake that revealed exactly how little Emma understood about my profession or capabilities. "Ms. Taylor, this is Attorney James Morrison representing Emma Taylor regarding the alleged theft of a garment." I almost laughed. James Morrison was a personal injury ambulance chaser whose biggest win was a $50,000 slip-and-fall settlement. Emma had brought a butter knife to a gunfight. "Mr. Morrison, how can I help you?" "My client is prepared to offer compensation for the temporary use of the dress in question. Say $500 for the inconvenience." "That's an interesting offer. Can you hold for just a moment?" I put him on hold and called my colleague Sarah Chen, who specialized in civil litigation. Sarah and I had worked together on several major fraud cases, and she had a reputation for surgical precision in depositions. "Sarah, are you interested in taking on a theft and emotional distress case? Quick timeline, but absolutely bulletproof. Evidence. How bulletproof are we talking? Defendant literally wore the stolen property to a public event and was photographed by professional photographers." "Jesus, Madison, what kind of idiot are you dealing with?" "My sister. I'll take the case." I got back on the line with Morrison. "Mr. Morrison, thank you for holding. I've just retained attorney Sarah Chen to represent me in the civil matter. She'll be filing suit tomorrow morning for theft, emotional distress, and punitive damages. The demand will be $50,000. $50,000? That's ridiculous. The dress cost $15,000. Rush replacement would cost $35,000 to $40,000. Emotional distress from having my wedding dress stolen by my sister is conservatively worth $10,000. We're being quite reasonable. Your client will never see a penny." "Mr. Morrison, has your client mentioned that she works part-time at a juice bar and her fiancé is unemployed? Because my financial investigation suggests they have approximately $847 in combined assets." But her future in-laws owned 3 restaurants in Portland and a vacation home in Tuscany. Family liability for tort damages can be quite complex. The line went quiet. Morrison clearly hadn't done his homework. My client is prepared to return the dress after her wedding. That's not acceptable. The dress will have been worn, photographed, and potentially damaged. My client requires return of the dress in its original condition or full financial compensation. This is extortion. No, Mr. Morrison, this is consequences. Friday afternoon came and went with no dress return. At 5:01 p.m., I called Detective Rodriguez to confirm I was proceeding with criminal charges, then emailed Sarah Chen to file the civil suit first thing Monday morning. Emma's wedding day dawned clear and beautiful perfect weather for what was about to become the most memorable day of her life, though not in the way she'd planned. I arrived at Overlake Country Club at 3:30 p.m., 30 minutes before the ceremony. I wasn't there as a guest. Emma had uninvited me via text message on Thursday. I was there as a plaintiff in an active theft case, accompanied by Detective Rodriguez and a warrant for recovery of stolen property. The country club's event coordinator, Helen Martinez, met us at the entrance with barely concealed panic in her eyes. Officers, surely we can resolve this after the ceremony? The guests are already seated. Detective Rodriguez was professional but firm. Ma'am, we have a warrant for recovery of stolen property currently in the possession of the bride. We can do this quietly, or we can do this publicly, but we are going to do this. The dress she's wearing? The dress she's wearing. I'd chosen my outfit carefully, a navy blue suit, professional but not flashy. I wanted to look like exactly what I was. A competent attorney handling a legal matter, not a jealous sister causing drama. We found Emma in the bridal suite, surrounded by her bridesmaids and photographer. She was indeed wearing my dress, and I had to admit it did look beautiful on her. The alterations she'd made to fit her shorter frame and different proportions were skillfully done, which only added to my damages. She'd permanently modified my custom gown. Emma Taylor? Detective Rodriguez stepped forward, badge visible. The room went completely silent. Emma's face went pale, making her professionally applied makeup look garish. You're under arrest for theft in the 2nd degree. You have the right to remain silent. The chaos that followed was spectacular. Emma started screaming about ruining her wedding. Her maid of honor demanded to know what was happening. The photographer kept taking pictures until Detective Rodriguez told him to stop. Emma's future mother-in-law, a tiny Italian woman in a elaborate hat, started yelling in rapid Italian, "Madison, please!" Emma was crying now, mascara streaming down her face. "I'll give it back after the ceremony, I promise." You had until yesterday at 5 p.m. to return it voluntarily. But the guests, Jason's grandmother flew in from Italy. That's not my problem, Em. You made your choice. The logistics were actually quite simple. I'd brought a replacement outfit for Emma, a simple white sundress I'd bought at Nordstrom that morning. She could change, surrender my dress, and proceed with her wedding. The ceremony would be delayed by maybe 30 minutes. But Emma's ego couldn't handle the humiliation. Instead of quietly changing and salvaging her wedding, she decided to make a scene. "I won't take it off. You can't make me." Detective Rodriguez looked at me, then at Emma, then sighed. "Ma'am, you can remove the dress voluntarily, or we can take you to the station and you can change there. But either way, you're removing the dress." That's when Emma's new husband-to-be made his entrance. Jason burst into the bridal suite in his ill-fitting rental tuxedo, took one look at the situation, and immediately threw Emma under the bus. "Babe, what did you do? You said your sister gave you the dress." Emma's eyes went wide. "Jason, not now. You told me Madison was being dramatic about sharing. You didn't say you actually stole it." Detective Rodriguez and I exchanged looks. Jason's statement was pure gold for the prosecution case. "Sir, are you Jason Matthews, the groom?" Detective Rodriguez had her notebook out. "Yeah, but look, I didn't know anything about this. Emma said it was a family thing." "Jason, shut up," Emma snapped. But Jason was in full self-preservation mode. "Officer, I swear I had no idea she actually stole the dress. She told me her sister was being selfish and her parents said she could take it. Another lie, since my parents had been as shocked as everyone else when they learned about the theft." At this point, Emma realized her situation was deteriorating rapidly. She agreed to change into the replacement dress, handed over my wedding gown, and was formally arrested. Detective Rodriguez let her remain free on citation so the wedding could proceed, but the damage was done. The ceremony started nearly an hour late. Half the guests had heard about the arrest and were whispering throughout the service. Jason's Italian relatives were mortified. Apparently, theft is considered especially shameful in their family culture. The photographer had missed most of the pre-ceremony shots, and the ones he did get during the dress incident couldn't be used, but the real fireworks came at the reception. Jason's father, Giovanni Matthews, was a successful restaurant owner with very traditional values about family honor and legal behavior. During his toast, he made several pointed comments about honesty in marriage and building trust from the beginning. Jason's grandmother, the 94-year-old matriarch Emma had claimed to be protecting, publicly asked, in heavily accented English, why the bride had been arrested. Emma tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, but too many people had witnessed the actual arrest. By the time dinner was served, the theft story had spread to every table. Emma spent her wedding reception alternately crying and trying to do damage control. I, meanwhile, had gone home, hung my recovered dress carefully in my closet, and ordered Thai food. David came over with a bottle of champagne. "How do you feel?" he asked, settling onto the couch beside me, like justice was served. "Any regrets?" I thought about it seriously. No. Emma made her choice when she decided to steal from me. I just made sure there were consequences. The aftermath played out exactly as I'd predicted. Within a week, Jason's family was pressuring him to annul the marriage. The theft charges were a particular problem because Giovanni Matthews was applying for citizenship and couldn't afford to have a daughter-in-law with a criminal record in the family. Emma tried to fight both the criminal case and the civil suit, but Morrison was completely outmatched. Sarah Chen had decades of litigation experience and a case so strong it was essentially prosecution practice. Every time Emma attempted a new defense claiming it was a gift, arguing family privilege, insisting on emotional duress, Sarah demolished it with documented evidence. The breaking point came during Emma's deposition. Sarah had a particular talent for asking questions that sounded innocent, but created legal quicksand. Emma, despite Morrison's attempts to coach her, couldn't help embellishing her answers. "So you entered your sister's apartment without her knowledge or permission?" Sarah asked. "I used the spare key my mom gave me. I've used it before." "For what purpose had you used this key previously?" "Just sister stuff. Checking on her apartment when she was out of town, watering plants." "Had your sister ever explicitly given you permission to take clothing from her apartment?" "We've shared clothes before." "When was the most recent time prior to this incident that you borrowed clothing from your sister?" Emma fidgeted. "I don't remember exactly." Sarah slid a document across the table. "I'm showing you Exhibit 47, a text message thread between you and Madison from December 15th, 2023. Can you read the highlighted portion?" Emma's face went red. The text thread showed her asking to borrow a cocktail dress for a holiday party, and me explicitly saying no because it was brand new and hadn't been worn yet. "Madison can be really possessive about her clothes," Emma mumbled. "So you were aware that your sister did not freely share her wardrobe?" "Objection," Morrison interjected weakly. "I'll rephrase. Prior to taking the wedding dress, when was the last time you successfully borrowed an item of clothing from your sister?" The silence stretched for nearly a minute while Emma tried to think of an answer that wouldn't destroy her case further. "I don't recall." Sarah smiled. It was not a friendly expression. The deposition continued for 4 hours. By the end, Emma had contradicted herself 17 times, admitted to multiple instances of taking my things without permission, and acknowledged that she'd planned the theft in advance. She'd scoped out my apartment twice before actually taking the dress. Morrison tried to settle that afternoon. Sarah's response was swift and brutal. Full damages or trial. Emma couldn't afford a trial. Jason's family was threatening to cut off support, and the criminal case was proceeding regardless of the civil matter. Emma agreed to pay $50,000 in damages. Since she didn't have $50,000, Jason's parents had to cover the settlement to avoid the public embarrassment of a trial. This created additional strain on the marriage, since Giovanni Matthews made it clear he considered Emma a financial liability, and poor reflection on the family. The criminal case resolved with Emma pleading guilty to theft in the second degree. She received 2 years probation, 200 hours community service, and was ordered to pay $2,147 in court costs and restitution fees. But the real justice was more poetic than legal. Emma's marriage lasted exactly 87 days. Jason filed for annulment. In June, claiming fraud specifically that Emma had misrepresented her character and legal situation. The annulment was granted, meaning legally, the marriage never existed. Emma moved back in with our parents, who were furious about having to mortgage their house to help pay the settlement. Her Instagram influencer dreams died when potential sponsors discovered her criminal record during background checks. The juice bar where she worked part-time let her go after the local newspaper ran a story about the case. Meanwhile, my wedding on April 12th was everything I'd dreamed of. The dress was professionally cleaned and showed no signs of Emma's temporary theft. Patricia had even added a few additional pearl details as a survival bonus, as she called it. My parents attended. They've never explicitly apologized, but they've also never again suggested I should just let Emma have what she wants. David and I honeymooned in New Zealand for 2 weeks. When we returned, there was a handwritten letter from Emma in our mailbox. In it, she apologized for everything and asked if we could start over as sisters. She claimed Jason's divorce was my fault for ruining her marriage with legal drama, but she was willing to forgive me if I helped her get back on her feet financially. I showed the letter to David over breakfast. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "Nothing." Nothing? Emma still doesn't understand that actions have consequences. She thinks this is all something that happened to her, not something she caused. Until she takes actual responsibility, there's no relationship to rebuild. I kept the letter, though. In my line of work, documentation is always valuable. 6 months later, I heard through family friends that Emma had moved to Phoenix to start fresh. She was working at a department store, makeup counter, and dating a guy she'd met on a dating app. Our parents visited her for Thanksgiving and reported that she seemed more mature and was learning from her mistakes. I wished her well, sincerely. But I also changed my locks and didn't give anyone a spare key. People sometimes ask if I think I overreacted to the dress theft. My answer is always the same. I didn't react to theft. I responded to it. Reaction is emotional and impulsive. Response is measured and appropriate to the situation. Emma stole a $15,000 custom piece of clothing that took 6 months to create and couldn't be replaced. She planned the theft in advance, lied about it repeatedly, and showed no remorse until faced with legal consequences. She cost me months of stress, thousands in legal fees, and nearly ruined the most important day of my life. In return, she faced criminal charges, paid financial damages, lost her marriage, and learned that stealing from family carries the same consequences as stealing from strangers. That seems perfectly proportional to me. The experience taught me something important about boundaries. For years, I'd enabled Emma's selfish behavior by being the reasonable sister who always compromised. I told myself that keeping peace was more important than standing up for myself. But peace built on doormat behavior isn't peace, it's just delayed conflict. When Emma stole my dress, she forced me to choose between enabling her again and protecting what mattered to me. I chose protection, and I've never regretted that choice. Some people might call what I did revenge. I prefer to think of it as accountability with consequences. Emma made a series of choices: to steal, to lie, to fight the charges, to refuse settlement, to sacrifice her marriage rather than take responsibility. I simply ensured that each choice carried appropriate weight. The best part? My dress photographs beautifully, and every time I look at our wedding pictures, I remember that I fought for what was mine and won. Emma's wedding photos, on the other hand, are apparently stored in a box in our parents' garage. Jason's family demanded the return of all professional prints as part of the annulment agreement. Justice isn't always swift, but when it's thorough, it's incredibly satisfying. Today, David and I have been married for almost 2 years. We bought a house in Queen Anne with a walk-in closet that has an excellent security system. We're talking about starting a family, maybe getting a dog, definitely taking that European vacation we've been planning. Emma is still in Phoenix, still working retail, still posting inspirational quotes about toxic family and choosing your own happiness on social media. She's blocked me on all platforms, which I consider a favor. Our parents occasionally suggest that enough time has passed for Emma and me to reconcile. I always give them the same answer. I'm not opposed to rebuilding our relationship, but it has to be based on mutual respect and accountability. Emma knows exactly what she needs to do to earn my trust back. Whether she chooses to do it is entirely up to her. In the meantime, I sleep very well at night, knowing that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is refuse to enable their worst behavior, even if that someone is family, especially if that someone is family.